Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the annexation of Canada, because President Donald Trump has been trolling Canada. Well, more accurately, he's been trolling Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about it for the past couple of weeks. Now, the reason why this has already become a topic for these past couple of weeks is because Trump hosted, and this is how this whole thing started. Trump hosted Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago the other day, and apparently, while at this little dinner thing at Mar-a-Lago, he made like an offhand joke that if Canada couldn't pay, the tariffs that were going to be put on Canada once he became president, which he has proposed, as well as for Mexico, that the US could just annex Canada altogether, and then, you don't have to pay a tariff because you're part of the same country now. He also made the same joke when posting on his Truth Social. He actually made a couple of these, one of which being this picture of him, and yes, this image is obviously AI generated through Grok. So this picture that he posted on Truth Social depicts him standing on top of a mountain with the Canadian flag overseeing a bunch of mountain peaks, which, by the way, looks nothing like Canada. This is more like the northern Andes Mountains in Peru and Ecuador. This is not the border of Switzerland and Italy, so Joy Reid is absolutely wrong about her geography describing this picture. But with this picture of him, on top of these mountains with the Canadian flag, he has the caption, "Oh Canada." He also made another post shortly afterwards, and we're going to read this other post verbatim here. And the reason why we're talking about this whole thing about Trump wanting to annex Canada is because a lot of people are taking this joke really, really seriously. And Canadians, I guess, they're all up in arms about it. On one hand, you have a bunch of Donald Trump superfans actually supporting this idea blindly and being like, yes, manifest destiny, baby. US and Canada as one country. Let's go on and invade Canada. So you got a lot of Trump supporters obviously supporting the idea of annexing Canada and are believing that this might actually happen. And then on the other hand, you have a bunch of leftists being like, oh no, Trump is actually serious about invading Canada. This is 1939 Poland all over again. Again, I've already mentioned Joy Reid being up in arms about it. She was actually freaking the fuck out about the whole idea of Trump wanting to annex Canada.
Even reportedly threatening Canada. According to Fox, when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago this weekend to try to talk Trump out of his 25% tariff threat, Trump apparently suggested that if Canada can't handle the tariffs that would violate the NAFTA upgrade Trump himself signed into law, the USMCA, they should just become the 51st state. Just become this 51st state instead and allow Trudeau to be reduced to governor of the state of Canada, which caused the Prime Minister and others to laugh nervously. And while some are writing that off as just a joke, just a few hours ago, Trump posted this obviously AI photo of him standing on a mountaintop next to the Canadian flag, looking off into the distance with the caption, "Oh Canada." And for the record, he appears to be looking at the Matterhorn, which is on the border between Switzerland and Italy, not Canada. Oh, and let's not forget, this is the same Donald Trump who at one point seriously wanted to buy the nation of Greenland, even possibly trade it for Puerto Rico. I wonder what this guy has against Puerto Rico. I'll just keep noodling on it. I'm sure I'll figure it out. Bottom line, this is how Trump operates on the world stage. He acts like he's everybody's boss, like he's the king of the world, which is bad news for basically everybody, unless your name is Vladimir Putin, the boss to Trump's underboss.
So obviously this whole idea of Trump wanting to take over Canada and, invade Canada, all because he made this snarky little joke while at Mar-a-Lago with Trudeau. But there's obviously some truth to this. So will the US annex Canada? Short answer, no. This is merely just a stupid joke. I will also be talking about my opinion on this whole hypothetical idea of annexing Canada. This has actually been thought out before, and what it means if it actually does end up happening. It's not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. So really what Trump is really trying to do is this whole mean tweet sort of things that he has done in his first time as president, and shouldn't be taken seriously. This whole joke about annexing Canada is no exception. So anyways, here's what he wrote on Truth Social. "It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. I look forward to seeing the governor again soon so that we may continue our in-depth talks on tariffs and trade, the results of which will truly be spectacular for all. DJT. Now keep this in mind. Donald Trump is fully aware of the fact that Justin Trudeau is not actually the governor of a state. He clearly already knows this fact. The only thing that you can really chalk this up to is trolling. Really what he's doing is bolstering his sarcastic remark to annex Canada and to turn it into a state. Although I feel like it would be more of a series of states. Probably wouldn't make sense to have it just be one. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories, so theoretically, it could give the US 13 additional states. And it would also be fairly large with a fairly high population. We'll get into that more because it is such a fun alternate history, hypothetical reality to always talk about every now and again. Obviously, this is not realistically and legally possible to happen, at least under the current foundation of Canada, because it's part of the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth. They still recognize the king as their head of state. However, if that were to be abolished, yeah, theoretically speaking, you could grab up Canada. If the citizens support it, it could easily be done with no problems. Trump has also said the same thing about Mexico. I especially don't see that happening. He has also optioned this for Greenland, among other things. He also said take the oil and stuff like that. I actually fully support the US buying Greenland and making that a US territory. That's a significantly more realistic option, and I would fully support that. I don't think Denmark even cares about it anyway. Now, is Donald Trump actually serious when he says he wants to annex the Canadians? Most likely not. I don't think he's serious about that whatsoever. And just so we are aware, I actually love all my Canadian viewers and friends, just as much as I love all my other peeps from the rest of the world. I've actually been to Canada before. I've met a lot of great people from there. Some of my favorite YouTubers are Canadian. I've got plenty of cool Canadian bros. And that being said, it's not a serious suggestion. This is basically just nothing more of a continuation of Trump wanting to wage a trade war and bashing Trudeau down. Now, Trudeau's approval rating is in the scrap heap at this point, so when there's people that are saying that they're offended over this, these are people that are probably like the type of milquetoast liberals that are basically like the equivalent of the Labour Party members of the UK or something like that. Let's just have a look at one of the responses to Trump's post here on X as an example of what I mean by this. This is from Marlene Robertson, and she is getting completely ratioed for her response at this moment, and here's what she has to say. As a Canadian, I find this post extremely offensive and insulting, but allowances must be made when it comes to a malignant narcissistic fascist in severe cognitive decline with the vocabulary of a third grader and the impulse control of a toddler. A malignant narcissistic fascist, you say? Sounds like you're trying to describe your own prime minister at the moment. I was not aware that Trudeau was using Truth Social, by the way. That's the first. I do not think Trump is serious about annexing Canada. He's just trolling. This is just your typical milquetoast mean tweets that you get from him. Mean tweets is all this is. It's just the way he operates. I don't see anything offensive about it. Trump has said all sorts of weird shit on Twitter and Truth Social throughout the years, and this is one of the few things that I do understand why people do not like Donald Trump. Like, the grab her by the P word, or the time that he made fun of that disabled reporter. I mean, yeah, sure, I can understand why people can get offended over that. But Trump has that sense of humor. He is known to crack jokes like that. And not to mention, every president in US history has cracked jokes like these before. Obama used to make jokes. Joe Biden certainly used to make jokes. George W. and his Bushisms. Teddy Roosevelt used to be a jokester. Calvin Coolidge even has a sense of humor. There's this one story where he was on, I believe, a press conference, and one of the journalists, one of the reporters, went up to him and he says, "Hey, I dare you to say more than 2 words in front of us." Because Calvin Coolidge was known to be a man of very few words. So one of the reporters went up to him and tried to make a bet and dared him to get 2 words out of Calvin Coolidge, and Calvin Coolidge responded by saying, "You lose." Honestly, one of the most hilarious snarks ever made by a US president at that time. So, every president has made stupid jokes before. Presidents throughout US history say weird shit, and Trump is certainly no exception. He does this for attention, number one. He wants to get a reaction out of people, number two. It's also politically effective, number three. And number four, it's because it's just goddamn fucking hilarious. It's entertaining when he does it. It's basically fun for the entire population, not just the US, but the whole world even. And he's not attacking the Canadians. He's not in any way trying to offend any Canadian. He's lampooning Justin Trudeau. Trudeau is not remarkably popular in Canada at the moment. Go ask JJ McCullough and Mudahar about Trudeau and see what they think about him. I'm pretty sure both of them will have nothing nice to say about him. Conservatives, liberals, nationalists, far leftists, and even Quebecers all fucking hate him. He's been likened to Fidel Castro multiple times. He's been called one of the worst prime ministers in modern Canadian history. He's making a mockery of his father's legacy. He even acts in a dictatorial manner, actually, which is something that Trump, by the way, is blamed for doing all the time, but never really does. If anything, he gets obstructed literally all the time by his own goddamn fucking Republican Congress more than anything else. So that's basically the blunder Trump is trying to make here. He's just making a joke, berating Justin Trudeau. How is this offensive? He's essentially making a joke. That's literally all this is. A joke. He knows already that the US can't possibly annex Canada. And most people know that already. We know that the United States is not actually going to march into Canada and attempt to annex them. Although I actually would support it if we did. Same with Mexico. This is, by the way, an idea that has been tried before in history, dating back to the Mexican-American War and the War of 1812. You may have heard of the phrase manifest destiny used before in US history, and especially if you took APUSH like I did. So manifest destiny was this belief that the US expanding westward was both a justification as well as an inevitability, meaning that the people who supported it and were proponents of it argued that it was a great idea, it would help them spread their ideas of liberty throughout the entire continent, and that they didn't really have a choice. They were supposed to anyway. And that's basically how the United States is what it is, and pretty much why we border two oceans. Go as far west as you can until you touch sea. This is our destiny. Let's go continue the spread of liberty by spreading our ideas elsewhere and claiming everything that hasn't been claimed, or even if it's already claimed anyway. And that's where you get all these attempts to invade Canada and even the attempts to invade Mexico. So there were points in time where the US did attempt to invade not just Canada, but also invade Mexico as well. Although, as we can tell, they pretty much failed in that goal. And now they're their own countries. It's not necessarily worth it. And especially nowadays, I support the two nations' sovereignty. And Canada, like I mentioned earlier, being part of the Commonwealth is not necessarily possible. However, that doesn't mean that the three countries uniting isn't a bad idea. In fact, I've been making fanfics and stories about the three countries uniting as one supernation since I was a little kid. And I still do fantasize about it to this day because not only it's such a fascinating alternate history concept to imagine and talk about, it does provide a lot of feasible benefits if it were a reality. If the United States, Canada, and Mexico ever joined forces, I believe it would become larger than the Soviet Union, if I remember correctly, in terms of land area. Its population would be nearly 10% of the global population, and its numbers would almost be nearing China and India. You're already getting real close to that 1 billion marker at that point. It would contain more than half the world's fresh water supply. It would have limitless resource of energy, lumber, crops, entertainment like film and music. Essentially, every single basic good under the sun. Canada, due to climate change, might become more arable and habitable, especially in the northern territories. Mexico already has a bunch of lush forests and farmland on the southern part of the country, just as much resources, and has some additional goods that can't natively be produced in the rest of mainland North America, like sugar, pineapples, coconuts, bananas, coffee, chocolate, and other crops that aren't naturally growing or produced in the contiguous US. So, in all likelihood, it would, without a doubt, form arguably the greatest agricultural conglomerate that you can possibly even imagine. In fact, you might end up becoming a victim of your own success. The massive amounts of wealth and the overwhelming power of resources combined with the relatively low population density too, would end up creating a situation where you would literally have to let things go fallow in order to not fuck with your own economy. You might end up with surplus and whatnot. So there are obvious trade-offs to this. But, at the same time, just why not? Just imagine. After all, it is our manifest destiny. Imagine an alternate history scenario where we have red, white, and blue Mounties waving Old Glory flags all across Banff National Park. Fuck Montana. Who needs that when you have Alberta? No offense to you, Montana. I love you guys. Or maybe we'll have a reality where Wayne Gretzky is waving the American flag in the great American city of Montreal. Or Chichen Itza, one of the most famous landmarks of North America, the old ancient Mayan pyramid. The United States? Oh yeah, we have them. The United States being home to famous Mayan architecture such as that. Who needs Miami Beach or Hawaii when you have Cancun, or Cabo San Lucas for that matter? Visiting these places while eating great American foods like tacos and burritos and poutine. And ketchup chips, too. I know you can tell I'm being completely and totally sarcastic here, but seriously, it could make such a fascinating and almost pretty good concept if the US, Canada, and Mexico were all one country, part of the United States, which almost happened multiple times. So yes, I do believe in that apocalyptic Fallout timeline. I do wish that Canada and Mexico were both sundered apart into multiple states, and we united the entire continent. While I would think that this is a good idea, and believe me, this will be good for all sides, including for Canadians, Mexicans, and Americans, it's probably not going to happen, and for the most part, will never happen. I don't think that Congress is going to declare war on either Canada or Mexico. And by the way, there was actually somebody who responded to this, and I thought that this was actually kind of hilarious. There were some people who responded to this whole annexing Canada thing by showing off a picture of the burning White House, and it's captioned with, "Oh, the last time the US invaded Canada, we burned the White House down," even though it was actually the British that burnt down the White House, not the Canadians. Canada didn't even exist that time. But even though that's what people were responding with, there was this one dude that I found, and they responded by showing like a different map, and it's like, oh, no. Basically, it's New England and New York, and the whole west coast of the United States will all become part of Canada. And then when I was looking at these pictures, I was like, well, the last time you tried to fuck with Northeastern Yankees, that's what we call people from the Northeast, it really didn't necessarily go over so well. That's probably not a great idea. It's more than likely not the best decision that you can make, you feel me? I mean, yes, you tried to burn down the White House, but you also decided to mess around with the New Englanders, and it ended really badly. So no, the United States is not going to annex Canada. Trump is not actually being serious about annexing Canada. And Justin Trudeau is not the governor of Canada. Donald Trump is simply trolling, and he's not directly trolling the Canadians. This is mostly targeted to Trudeau, who is, by the way, not popular in his own country. That's really what this is. So let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comments down below. Do you think the US annexing Canada is a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think Trump was wrong for making a joke like this? Do you think he should have been more professional about it? If the US and Canada were to join forces, how do you think that will work out? What do you think would happen if the whole North American continent became one country? What do you think are the pros and cons for a united North America? Anyways, I like to hear all your thoughts and opinions on the comment section down below, as I always end the conversation down to you. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias, links are in the description below. Share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you were to share this video with whomever you know. And if you do guys have any news tips or video ideas, be sure to let me know down there as well. Also, don't forget to let me know on Twitter/X, that is at AXY0M. DMs are open, so be sure to let me know there. Still working on revamping the Discord server. That's not yet ready. Still need people on how I can get that to work, so I'm gonna need some help on that. But yeah, that's all I got for you. So anyways, guys, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You're awesome.